Oh, I would say sorry. This this chicken did not want us to continue. They found us disturbing, and as such, they have won. We had to give them chance, and here we are. We hope they will not interfere with us anymore. I can still hear them, but they are not as disturbing as they were when we were near their shed. So we had reached a time when we had sat the common entrance examination and were to go to the intermediate school. As I was to sit the exam in 1954, I was already 14 years. So I had to fill in the papers that I was 12 years. We didn't have birth certificates. They were not being asked for because very few people, if any, were having birth certificates for their children. And therefore, I sat the exam and I passed. Already, the makeshift school where I started had moved. The same senior chief talked to the same old priest, and the old priest was given a bigger piece of land by the same man, but not there, but across a big river known as Theta. The same place, the new place was also known as Gatito, where the priests, with the help of the Christians and members of the public, built a big school known as Gatito Intermediate School. That's where we went. We were not the first. There were people who had migrated from the closed schools, which were independent, and colleges, and had joined earlier. While I enjoyed Stad 5, they had the first lot in Stad 7. We were walking from Kiamwangi to Gatito, the new school. We were passing through the graveside where we would go through the unsightly remains of human. We would be harassed, and sometimes we would not go very early. Otherwise, we also may be harassed by the home guards and the Johnnies who were patrolling and running around. But all the same, we went. Our head teacher, we were calling him not headmaster but principal, the name he had retained when he was in Kiamwangi College, because he was a higher diploma holder from the University of Makerere, and I was teaching there in Kiamwangi as a principal. When they closed, he was employed by the priest in a place known as Keriko in Gatondo North, in an area established intermediate school. So when Gatito became intermediate, he was transferred there, and therefore when I go there, it is him who was the headmaster. He was a village mate, and therefore he tolerated me, though paying school fees was not easy. I did study 5. We were paying about 1 shilling and 50. It wasn't easy to get that. I finished 5, and then the following year, 56, I went to study 6. fortunately or unfortunately, my brother, who had stopped school in the independent college, had already joined Kiriko College, where Principal Kioni left. So he was taken by Kioni, and by the time Kioni left to join Gatito, my brother was left there. In 1956, he sat the Kenya National, the KAPE, and passed. KAPE is a Kenya Primary and
Kenya Advanced Primary Education.
yeah, something like that. It has a okay, we will find out. Yeah, he had passed. He did his now high school, his intermediate, the final intermediate examination. He passed so well, and he was called to Mangu High School. There were no bursaries or anything like that, so they were supposed to pay a few things, and all the efforts of the family were to be put together to make him join the prestigious Mang High School. I was in Standard 6. There was nothing coming to pay for my fees, but Principal Kioni, with the influence of David Thiga, my cousin, the headmaster of Kiamwangi, now Catholic school, tolerated me up to the end of the first term without payment. But we could not continue further. So I was not allowed to continue. I was sent home. And it is during this time that as we were with my mom, since I became more or less a helper of mom, together with my siblings who were behind me, things became so difficult, and already my followers were to be given out to people to work for them, at least to get something. My follower, Patrick Gedenji, was working for one of the teachers in Kiamwangi and was taken to Githunguri place, in a place called Lyuki. That's where he went to be employed as a hunt boy to look after the animals of a lady, mother of a teacher. My second follower, Kariuki, was also found some employment just next to Kenyatta's family. Our aunt, the paternal second born of Memia, of Thiga and Nduta, the one who followed my father, was married there and found us a job in a neighbor's place to go and look after the animals. So I was left with my mom, and the small girl, my last born sister. In one of these days, we happened to have gone to the market, Kiganjo, with my mom And there we bumped into a fellow who used to be a colleague of my father in Naivasha before the former employer of my father shifted to go to Moro when he was loaned to the incoming settler. He went with all the other people other than my father, who was left to train the incoming settler. And during that time that he met his demise. So, all colleagues heard later that he died, and his people were told to go home, and they never met again. And by God's grace, we met one of them in the market. They cried with my mother. He was given the story, and he was very sympathetic. He was called Mushendu. Mushendu happened to have come not from far from here. He came from Gatito, just next to Mohoho, the present Mohoho High School, a high school that was built in a land also donated by Senior Chief Mohoho. It's not far from the Gatito Intermediate School. So he told us that they settled in a place known as Turi, in an area known as Molo, between the Molo town and Elbagon, and they were up on the Mau Hills. The area's actual name was Kirangi. That means babu tree, because it was covered by babu trees up in the hills, and that's where they were settled. And when he was asked whether the employer remembered us and whether he would allow us to go back there, he told us to go and write a letter, and he would take it as he goes back. It was on a Tuesday. Incidentally, for a long time, the marketplace in Kiganjo has been on a Tuesday and on a Friday, twice a week. This was on a Tuesday, so he gave us an appointment to meet there the following Friday and give him a letter, because he was just about to leave, and he would take it to Muzungu and ask if he would allow us to go there. We wrote a letter. He took the letter. The Mzungu, who was very fond of my father, and with whom he had stayed for a long time, and who loaned him to the person he sold his land to, where he died, and he came to know of it when the family was sent back home, was sympathetic. And he said, if there's anybody who would come and work with us, we would allow. I said I was 16, and he said we would go. We should go. Already, my siblings, the two brothers who were working for other people, herding cattle, had had a very hard time, and both of them were recalled by my mother due to unbearable conditions which my mother would not tolerate. So both of them were recalled and they were at home. And as such, we organized now to go to Molo following the acceptance of the Mzungu. Now, our sisters who were older than my brother, who had already joined Mangu, were already married. The first one got married in 1950, and that is Regina Wanjiru. Got married to somebody, Kimemia Kinyanjui. The second one got married in 1953, just after break of independence, of emergence, and got married to somebody known as Christopher Karumba Kamau. Therefore, only me, my follower brother, and the other brother who followed him, last born sister, and my mother, and the co-wife remained at home. It was, as I said, at the height of emergency. My uncle, the last born son in the family, was arrested and detained for a while, and after he was released, he cohabited with my mother's co-wife, who had maintained herself to the wish of the late husband that never to part with the elder co-wife. This time round, the conditions were so difficult, and she moved with permission of my mother, who acted as a mother, to cohabit with the brother of the late husband.
Was it weird?
It was not weird, it is customary.
No, the first time you came to notice this, to know that the brother was cohabiting with the co-wife.
It was not, in fact, it's only that my mother sympathized with the young lady, having remained with her for 8 years, and now the daughters who are associating with her, more or less her age mates, had already gotten married. So being with her there, he was sympathetic, she was sympathetic, and therefore it was relieving to her. So she would take it with without any strains. Yeah, and since it is customary, so they cohabited. We were left now with mother and my siblings, and therefore, when that time came of shifting back to Rift Valley, we had to shift me, my mom, my follower brother, and his follower, and our last born daughter. However, for us to go, we had to be cleared by the British government that we were not members of the Mau Mau, as it was called, and as such we were to be screened. If they are convinced that we are not, if we are convinced that they are not, if they were convinced that we were not members of the Mau Mau, we will be given letters, and therefore the screening would start from the headman. The headman is assistant chief. The assistant chief then was known as Mongai, and the chief was an acting one after the death of John Muhoho Gadesha, the senior chief. So his stepbrother, Charles Kigwe, was acting chief then. He had to consent after the sub-chief gave a letter, and then that letter we would take to Gatundu to the DO, the district officer. The district officer was an European, would consent, send it to Kiambu, the district officer. Whether it went to the governor or they were given consent, I don't know, but a letter came back written in red, and it cleared us. It's me and my mother who were screened in Kiganjo, where they had set a temporary camp where they used to screen people. We were screened for 2 days, and we were cleared and then given pass. It was known as inter-district, inter-province pass. We used that to go back to Rift Valley.
Which year was
That was in 1956, when I had already left school.
What do you mean by screening?
Screening is,
Rather, how is it done?
you are asked questions in a very harsh manner, and sometimes things were put on you and you are told that you know, and you are pushed just to be seen if you are going to release anything that will lead to the movement that was in existence then, known as Mau Mau, or those who had taken Kiapo or oath and were agitating others to fight the Europeans.
Were also kids subjected to screening?
Depending on their age, because now that my mother was supposed to be screened, I was the eldest that was staying with her, and I was 16 years, I was subjected to it.
It must have been tough.
It was because it was a little lighter to us, because when we told our story, and even the headman, that is the assistant chief, had given our story, we were known as destitute people. We were orphans. Our father had died. We had a mother who was only with us. Our story was also told by us, how we had started in Rift Valley where our father died, and how unbearable life was with us here. So somehow they were sympathetic, and they would see that there was nobody to lead us to those recruitments, since we were not potential to any help to them.
So suppose someone who was screened was found to be in relations to the Mau Mau, what was done to them?
They were all taken. Those who were screened in normal manner, because almost everybody went through the screens. Those who were found to be involved, they were detained. They were taken to Manyani or any other place, Lamu or wherever, for detention. and the detention was prolonged depending on the toughness of the people they were interviewing, and others who resisted, and they were mentioned and called by others, or mentioned by others that they were the ones that recruited them, or they were recruited together, or they are the ones who were sent to do this and that by the group, were subjected to very harsh treatment and even killed. There are those we are talking about that were killed anyhowly and buried in the shallow graves, mass shallow graves in Kiamwangi next to the detention area.
So generally there was no survivors. If you were found to be related to the Mau Mau, you were either killed.
No, there were survivors. Only those who were very, they found to be very difficult in revealing what they wanted, or were caught doing the recruitment, or were found in association with those who are in the forest, either feeding them, either passing communication to those we wanted to, or in any way working with them. Those are the ones that lives were terminated. The others were tortured and detained. They were not eliminated en masse.
So, for example, if you were screened and you gave out some information and they released you, was there any punishment from the community, or being considered as a snitch?
Yes, there was. Some of those who were already in the group and they were recruited and they were right in the group, when they succumbed to the torture and revealed, they were not released as such. They were made they were given cover to assist the colonial masters to help and reveal about the others, and they were undercover. They are the ones that were called Tokonia, because when you go to the screening area, they will be at a corner somewhere, covered so that you don't see them, and they would reveal if you are one of them. Once you get out, or when you are called, they would tell your story if they know of it. Others were recruited and became home guards. There are even those who had not been recruited by the agitators and opted to remain loyal to the colonial government, and they were recruited as home guards. So they were walking around with Johnnies, and they would review things and cover the location or the homesteads in the nights, moving around as home guards. After now getting the certificate or the pass from the colonial government to travel, we had really very little to carry or to clear. And therefore, our mother, who was the head of the family, organized, and it was organized that we get to the train. We were given express information from the would-be employer, whom, as I said earlier, was sympathetic, having lost a royal and well-groomed employee, a cook for that matter. So he said, we get a train from wherever. This time we got train in Nairobi. We were escorted there and we boarded the train, and we had to disembark at Turi station, which is between Moro and Elbagon. He said, when we get to Turi, we disembark and wait. The train arrived there at around 3 a.m. It was freezing cold. We were told to wait there till around 8 or thereabout. We didn't know time, but we were told to wait until somebody will come for us. We were told there will be a tractor that used to bring milk to the creameries, the KCC branch that was there, and then those who would come in it, some of them are those that we used to be with in Naivasha, Ndogo, and they will pick us, carry us in that trailer pulled by a tractor, and we go to the farm. And that's what happened. We had to endure the cold up to the morning. They came and found us. We were taken in that trailer. We got to the Shamba, which was about 5 kilometers from the station. Where we started a new life. If I would tell you, right from when we lost our dear father, we went through very difficult times, and our time, our situation, our lives were made different when we got to the farm, where we joined those who used to live with my father and his family. The rejoining was wonderful because all came to us, were crying. It's as if a dead person has come back to life. They were so helpful. They were so careful. Mzungu, I mean the employer, the settler, also welcomed us. But he restrained his emotions, though he instructed his people to give us a house and take care of us. We were given about a week to settle, then start working. All those we found that had worked with and lived with my family before my father died took us as their children, as their brothers and their sisters. We were given a house. For about a month or two, we were not allowed to cook, though they were giving us raw food, donating it from all sides. But many brought us cooked food. They ate with us, and we saw as if we have gone now to the place that is preached about in the religion we followed. Coming to a place where we were accepted and we were seen as dead coming alive, accepted by everybody.
When you talk about just the food, what kind of food?
Yeah, the food is the normal Kikuyu food. They make irio. Incidentally, what actually grew there, potatoes were growing very big, cabbages. The kale that we call sukuma was there but was not eaten by people. Was for the pigs and for the animals, cows. The peas were also doing very well. There were broad beans, if you know them, broad beans, we call them in Kikuyu noe, which are colored and white. Maize grew, but what we call now hybrid, because there was only one season. It was very cold, but it grew in plenty. There was plenty of food. All kind of vegetables as ready, and people could go grind their maize either in Elbagon or in Molo to have flour for ugali and uji, the porridge.
Were there any chapels?
Chapo, I would like to tell you people, right from the time we were in Naivasha to the time we came to Central Province, when it was only heard of, Chapo was eaten during Christmas. In other words, there was a name that was associated with the Chapo. The Christians had a name that they were calling Morekio. The song that was sung during Christmas, that this messenger and the Son of God was sent from heaven and was born during Christmas time. In Kikuyu, Morekio wangai niokite nikio twina uhoro wa gukena na uhoro mwega uyu. So we have baptized or nicknamed chapati as uhoro wa gukena. When it was being made, people are happy, and it was only during Christmas that people would sacrifice. If I will tell you for certain that we, when we were in Central Province, our mother did not want us to be left out, but we could not afford. We could afford a small packet of ungangano. There was, I think, 1 kilo and 2 kilos.
How much was it?
I cannot remember for sure, but it was a few cents, about 30 cents, what cents, or thereabout. But since it was not enough, we were mixing it with maize flour so that we could get at least sizable. We did not have with them the pan that flying, so we would do it either in a sufuria or karai. And there was no oil even. The salad oil, we used to call it tharari, and there was known for Waswahili and Wahindi. We were having the hard fat from the animals. Yeah, we would heat it to melt. We would tie a brush, that is the fiber of sisal. We tie to that, to a stick, a short stick, and then we tie properly, we cut it to size, it becomes a brush, and that is the one we would use to put oil on the whatever we are cooking with, and on the chapati, which is a mixture of the wheat flour and the maize flour.
What is your favorite meal at that time?
When we were in Central Province, we did not have a favorite meal because every meal was by chance. But as usual, our irio, what today is known as mokimo, was a common food for the Kikuyu community and the society as a whole. Though, for those who are not well-to-do, there were sweet potatoes, and where they were dug and you left something small left behind, and then could outgrow, and then you went to dig and you could get remnants of the potatoes, some of them which were very soggy, but we used all what was available. We didn't have a choice of good or bad. We ate what was available.
So at this point, you have reached the farm, and the settler who was there was accommodating. He gave you a week to settle. Then yes, you can continue from there.
Okay. So my mom was employed to start working with other ladies. We were already given whatever we needed. We didn't have much that we had carried with us. We were given sufrias, we would be given even cups here and there. We had all that we required, although they would not allow us to cook for quite a while. And we were in heaven that we knew then. The only unfortunate thing that we noticed, especially we, the young people, me, I was already recruited in the Catholic Church as I started there from study 2. And the head of the school I joined up to standard 4 was headed by my cousin and was very religious. He actually made me that religious, and I became an altar boy all through.
Cousin's name?
Huh?
Cousin's name?
He is David Thika Memia, the first cousin. And he also became, him and his wife became my godparents when I was baptized in 1955 by Father McGill, and was to be confirmed in 1956 by Archbishop J.J. McCarthy, who was the only bishop in charge of Zanzibar, Kenya, and Uganda. Lived in Nairobi, Riverside, a home he left for now sisters he started, known as Assumption Sisters of Nairobi. They have their headquarters in the same place that they call J.J. McCarthy in Riverside, just near Strathmore College.
Which year was this when you became an altar boy?
I became altar boy right from 1953 when I joined Kiamwangi after it became a Catholic school. And that's where we interacted with Father McGill. I was added to him by our headmaster, my cousin, and became so close to him. He liked me with 2 or 3 others The two of us became very friendly. We caught up in Latin that was being taught. We had to serve Mass in Latin. We accompanied him wherever he went. He lived in the school. Thereafter, he moved to the intermediate at Gatito, and we would go there during the holidays to serve the Masses. One of the instances I would vividly remember and would like to highlight is that in the year 1954, no, 55, at the beginning of 55, there is a priest who had come from America, from Millenor organization, known as Patrick Peyton, Father Patrick Peyton. We were told that he had died, and for 4 days was dead, awaiting burial. But he said he talked to Mother Mary and he pleaded with the Mother of Jesus, asking her to plead with the Son Jesus to resurrect him, and he would go around the world preaching the prayer of Rosary in the homes. Up to now, I remember, and I have a book written on him and with a photo, and I will show you. I still keep it. He had to visit East Africa along many other countries of the world to fulfill the promise he had made with Mother Mary. He was originally Irish, but had settled in US and was teaching in US, was attached to a hospital in US, and he knew Father McGill since they had both come from Southern Ireland. So when he had to come to East Africa, he came under the host of Father McGill, and his visit and his mass was in the ground of the church, of the school known as Kiamwangi. I will show you the school and the ground as we go back. People came from all over East Africa to attend to this preaching and the introduction of the Rosary of the Family. They were praying to have Russia release the people they had and to agree to allow Christians flourish and break the communism rules that they had, and asked families to pray Rosary daily in the evening before sleeping. That was his mission. I served his Mass. Those who attended came, as I said, from East Africa. My brother then was in Mangu. Mangu was the senior-most institution of the Catholic Church around here, and had to bring the students and the Christians, the followers, to the meeting. They came from all over, from Kiambu, from Nairobi, from Uganda, from Tanzania, and they all came to hear him. The students that were coming from Mangu there were no roads. The road to Kiamwangi from Mangu, you had to go to Thika Road, all the way to Roiro. You get Magoda Road, which was a rough and a small road, the one we had followed, all the way up to Kiamwangi. As they came to the boundary of the settled area and the reserve where we crossed the river, unfortunately they had an accident and their lorry missed the road and splashed into the river. A number of them were hurt, one lost life, and many had serious injuries. Those who survived continued to the prayer. The others were rushed to the hospitals. Among them, if you may remember, is a prominent journalist who worked for Standard briefly. Standard, because Standard was the only paper that existed as an English paper, and he started weekly review. He was called Hilary Ngweno. Hilary Ngweno was a schoolmate of my brother Peter and a few others, and they were in that lorry. He was unfortunate. He was involved in that accident and he broke his both legs and was very badly damaged. By God's grace, though treatments were not so good, he recovered, and after his completion of school was very bright, very bright. He kept record during his time, and he went to America to study rocket science. After completion of his school, he worked there, came back, and he decided to go to journalism. He worked with the newspaper and started his own, and he did quite a lot. He started his own companies. He's selling them out, including what was called Weekly Review and many others. He has already left us. May his soul rest in peace. There were many of them. I'm blessed to have as a neighbor one of those who were in that lorry by the name Waweru. He is an immediate neighbor. We go to church together. We are in a small Christian together. And he also vividly tells the story as it was. And God has spared him up to this time. I'm glad I'm spared too, and so is my brother, and we can avert to the story that I am telling.